What's up, everybody? Welcome to the CanesInSight Daily Podcast, live from Duffy's Tavern, home of the Hurricanes, right there on the edge of Coral Gables. Shout out to Wayne the Pain, holding it down like always. Pete, man, first Duffy show of the off season. A lot to get into. Portal, it was so fast and furious. I think it's going to take us a couple of weeks to kind of unpack everything. We'll talk about just some of the portal retentions that maybe haven't gotten the buzz that we think could make an impact on Miami's run to a sixth national championship. Of course, we'll break down Darian Mensah even further. That's going to be a long process because there's a lot there. Bringing on the professor, Lance Roffers. He's going to talk about Mensah, just some of the ways our offense might look different with him. Recruiting's picking up. Miami's making some big-time visits. That's going to really speed up. Now the portal's closed, I feel like that's going to be the focus of the staff. You're going to see them really rocking and rolling there. So just a lot of off-season stuff, man. Never ends.
Yeah, obviously it got compressed a little bit here with as long as the season went, but you could also say it probably pushed spring back a bit because we're not gonna really get any action there until late March, D. But I will say these freshmen posting updated weights and heights and these photos of them in the weight room is it's holding me over already. You mentioned the portal. We'll get into that here in a minute. I know we have Lance here in the lobby waiting, so we'll bring him in just a second. But it's funny, man, because you said it happened. Everything happened so fast. For a while, Canes fans were a little bit, freaking. I wouldn't say freaking out, but concerned that, hey, this pace that we're going at. And I talked about it with Steve Kim. I did an afternoon show with him yesterday. It's funny how you look back and you can now say, I understand why they played it that way. The way they were able to retain most of the key pieces that you wanted to retain, and then still bring in guys in position of need. So,
no doubt. It's team building in 2026, man. There's a lot of layers to it. And most important layer, that quarterback. Talk about him. Brought to you by Canada Financial. It is upon further review with Lance, a.k.a. Glance. How we doing?
Life's great. How about you guys?
A lot better than the last time I was sitting in this chair. We were trying to get ready to watch a national championship game. Should have been the peak of fandom, and we were stressing big time about transfer portal quarterback. I think that was the last show we did here, Pete.
Yeah,
transfer portal freak out. Obviously worked out at the quarterback position. Now we really know who Miami's quarterback is. He's enrolled. He's probably throwing footballs already, and that is Darian Mensah. Lance. And I know after this news broke, you took a deep dive, as you tend to do, really studying not only the player, but also how the offense might change to fit the player or how he might fit what we already do. So before we get into the offensive side and how he fits, let's talk about the player himself, his traits, his skill set. What did you see when you really broke down Darian Mensah?
Yeah, I think I went into it, with a basic understanding of the player, right? Just because you watch the games and you see teams in the ACC play, and you watch the ACC championship. So you've seen him play, but I think really diving in and trying to get your hands on all 22 where you can, and just seeing how they do down in, down out, how the defense responds to them, and how they kind of react to that, is you can learn a lot about a quarterback. And I went into it probably thinking that he was a little bit more of like a gunslinger than it really turns out that he is. In many ways, Mensah is a rhythm passer. He really wants to, he wants to get the ball. He wants to, have his first read. He wants to see it quick. He wants to get it out of his hand, and really let his playmakers around him, run after the catch, do things along those lines. Super accurate. Another thing that as I kind of dove into Mensah that really kind of caught my eye was just how efficient he is over the middle of the field, right? You hear about, how he has such a high vertical percentage, right? Throws the ball vertically so often. It really surprised me just how efficient he is over the middle of the field. He was number 2 in the nation over the middle of the field in EPA, only behind Julian Sayin at Ohio State, which is pretty good company to be in, right? And another thing that he really does well is he throws the ball off platform quite well. He's kind of got a little bit of that, sidearm 3/4 release that you see so much in today's college football. Gives you a little bit of Cam Ward vibes, harken back to the days there just a little bit. when I was doing a deep dive on Cam Ward, I think something that really kind of, was a revelation to me was just how pure and elite his release was. I won't say that Mensah's is quite to that level, but he definitely has a release that you notice and you see how quick and pure it is. And then kind of the other thing that really stood out is just how soft his touch is. He is really, really adept at, kind of throwing those fades and the deep vertical shots that really just kind of drop in the bucket. It is kind of one of the terms you hear a lot on some of those deep throws. He knows which shoulder to put it on. He knows how to throw a ball that a receiver can adjust to. I think I probably expected him to have a little bit bigger arm than he does. His arm is just solid. It's not weak or anything along those lines, especially at the college level, but it's not a gun. That's one of the things that separates, him from Ward a little bit is
let's stop there. Cause I want to talk about this because I got a lot of, there's been a discussion point off air and I wanted to make sure we talked about it with you. So I don't want to just move on to the next thing before we really flesh it out. People have asked me, Lance, why do you think that Mensah, because Mensah's draft eligible.
Yep.
And I've said, I think Mensah's, he's got a chance to win the Heisman next year with the way our receivers are set up. But we'll get into all that, the college projection in a second and continue there. But I've been high on what he's going to do here. But the same token, I'm acknowledging that, hey, if he went pro this year, he probably would, in my opinion, go after Beck in the draft, or at least in the same range. Teams are different, but I think it would be either close range or Beck ahead. So like a lot of questions I get from people are like, how do you balance those things where you're saying he's maybe not as good of a pro prospect right now? Again, he's got a whole another year, but right now is Beck. But yeah, you think he's going to put all these numbers up in college. So just why do you think, for those who ask me the question, I'll ask you the question. Why do you think Mensah did not go pro? And is it about that arm strength and physicality maybe translating more to college right now and putting up huge numbers and winning a championship for Miami than going straight to the pros and dealing with some of the conditions and stuff they got to deal with there?
Yeah, let me kind of unpack that just a little bit. So I can't tell you who would go first in the draft. I can tell you like how I would evaluate the player, for a draft projection. I'm a finance guy. I'm not in a draft room. So take that for what it is. I would probably give Mensah a third, fourth round grade if I was to give him after, kind of diving into him and watching him. Similar to what I would probably give Beck. To me, they're different players. They're not the same at all as far as a pro projection goes. So to me, Beck is a much bigger player. He's actually a large, player. You see him sometimes and maybe he looks a little thin or looks a little slight, in some of the pictures that people love to pick on him about, but he's pretty good size. And you saw him in that playoff run, running over people and being a little more physical than you would expect. So he's a little bit of a bigger player. Another thing with Beck is much better pre-snap. He is very good at diagnosing at the line. One of the things that Georgia put on him quite a bit was understanding the fronts, making adjustments, identifying where to go with the ball. In Mensah's offense at Duke, it was much more predefined, lots of RPOs where, he was really just trying to get the ball to his first read. Beck has a lot more tape of him getting to a line, identifying fronts, making adjustments, and running a little bit more of a pro-style offense. Not as much at Miami, obviously, but at Georgia, he has quite a bit of tape of doing. That's one of the things I liked about Beck as a pro projection. So a little bit different players, and I think Beck has a stronger arm as well than Mensah does, at least pre-injury. There was a build-up period throughout 2025 for Beck. I thought he looked sharper as we got, into November and December, and whether that was health or maybe, just bias because we started winning and it's also more recent. So it's on my memory maybe, but those are some of the differences. And, I gave a lot of positives towards Beck in that. So let me kind of, tell you where I think Mensah is actually a better college player. Mensah is much better on the move, right? You can absolutely, move the pocket. You can roll him either direction. He's much better after the play breaks down than Beck is. Beck is very much like a structured quarterback. Mensah is a rhythm passer. He really does want to be able to get to his first, second reads and get the ball to those individuals, but he's very good at doing so. He can adjust off platform. He goes either direction. A lot of times right-handed quarterbacks struggle going left. I saw Mensah have several good plays, moving to his left, and he has that definitely a more catchable ball and definitely a more catchable vertical ball than what Beck showed in 2025. So those are some of the differences for me. Mensah is probably a little bit more athletic, but neither one of them are what I would call scrambling quarterbacks. Both of them really kind of move around to try and, make plays. And then I think Mensah is a little better about arm angles and moving the ball around, if he's got someone in his face in the pocket.
Go ahead. Well, Lance, I was just going to ask you about, because I still haven't really watched much of the stuff from Tulane, and most of what I've seen is Duke, the Duke stuff. What sort of leap did you see from him from year 1 to 2? I mean, even just looking at the box scores, obviously he was a freshman, was more of a just looking at the numbers. They weren't trying to really put the ball in his hands to win these games, but then you see how many more attempts per game he has at Duke. You see the numbers he puts up in terms of being second leading passer in the country. How much of it was the differences on the offense? How much of it was just his growth that you saw? I mean, what was that leap like?
Yeah, a lot of it is just development of a player as they age, right? So I felt like he got a little bit bigger, got a little bit stronger. In the Duke offense, they definitely put him in a position to be able to get the ball out of his hands a little bit quicker. Duke runs a lot of screens. I mean, they spam that bubble and that RPO in that offense a little too much, quite honestly, for my liking. But that was one thing. His accuracy improved as he married his footwork just a little bit better. What you see with a lot of young quarterbacks is you see them rely on their upper body quite a bit. And as they kind of develop, they start marrying their feet to where they're trying to throw the ball. And that base is so important for a quarterback. I'm not a quarterback coach. That's not my area of expertise. But as I've kind of done this quite a bit and watched players, I've started to notice what separates, the players with maybe excellent accuracy from good accuracy. And it really is marrying their feet to their upper body and base up. So you start with a base. And for me, Mensah improved that quite a bit. Now, one of the things I'm going to probably talk about at some point that he can do better is, he can still continue to grow with that, right? Sometimes he gets upper body heavy and his arm lags and some of that accuracy wanes. I felt like he's improved in that respect the last couple of years as he's moved up and as he's grown, physically and matured. I think that's something that they can continue to work on with him. There are times where, that arm angle movement that he does causes it to float just a little bit as well. And sometimes it also causes him to try and rely on his arm. And I've already mentioned, I don't think he has like a bazooka type arm. And in the North Carolina game in particular, they really sat on some of those in-breaking routes and honestly should have had several interceptions in that game. I know Duke won that game. That should not have happened. North Carolina should have won that game. And Duke escaped with a win, quite honestly. And Mensah had at least 3 passes in that game that probably should have been intercepted because he relied too much on his upper body and let the ball float a little bit.
So we talked a little about the draft grade, and again, the thing people kind of push back on is why do you say that their draft grades are similar now, but yet you think Mensah will be so much more productive? I do think our passing game is going to take a big jump this year. Mm-hmm. And I want to kick that same question to you. I'm assuming you agree. I think you do based on your responses that with now we have Barcate, Tony, Vandrevius Jacobs as the deep threat, Cam Vaughn as that go up and get it type of guy, just that fleet of receivers, and then Mensah is that point guard in the middle. Same offense with Shannon Dawson. Why do you think, and I would agree with you, that this passing offense is going to be more explosive and more dynamic with Mensah at the center throwing to these players?
Yeah, I think there's 2 reasons. One, I really felt like Beck left a lot to be desired over the middle of the field this year. That intermediate in-breaking, anticipatory throws. I felt like there were times that Beck really had to see it to throw it. And if the initial picture changed on Beck, he hesitated for just a second. We actually saw that in the SMU game, right? At that last interception. That's a classic example of what I'm kind of talking about, where, he hitches and then he's late with the ball over the middle of the field. And when you're late over the middle of the field, that often leads to poor results, right? And that's something that I feel like Mensah really excelled at. And, in an air raid offense where you're going to run a lot of mesh, you're going to run a lot of whips in your smash routes, things along those lines. And the whip can be back inside too, which is exactly what we saw in the SMU game that I'm talking about, that particular play. I do believe Mensah is going to open up that intermediate part of the field. And then, the vertical shots are quite a bit better from Mensah, in my opinion. He allows players to have a little bit more opportunity to catch some of those vertical shots. And then let's be honest, the projected wide receiver room that we have this year is better than the wide receiver room we had in 2025. And I'll give you a couple of reasons. One, Malachi Tony, you do believe he's probably going to improve, right? From an 18-year-old true freshman who's kind of thrown into the middle of things. And as the year went along, he's probably not really a freshman anymore, but you got to expect him to at least have confidence and be established as a player that the offense is going to sort of run around, right? Also, Barkate, we had receivers that I really liked in 2025. I really appreciate, Daniels and Marion and Tony Johnson and all those players that, really contributed there, but we don't have anybody that's quite as good as Barkate in the, number 2 role or the outside complementary role. And then you add 2 vertical threats that maybe we didn't have this year, at least not to the level that those players are. Now, one of them is a little bit more of a rack guy who can be a vertical player, and one of them is a little bit more of a vertical guy who probably can grow his route tree as far as the transfers that are coming in. But you put all that together, and I just feel like our receiver room has gone from, maybe a B to an A- type room. And you have a quarterback who's at least comparable and, in my view, probably a better college player at the quarterback position. The one question you're going to have, obviously, is how does that offensive line come together? Losing an All-American at right tackle, and then, a player that I was very high on this year in Markel Bell at left tackle. You do open yourself up to some projection there, and I don't want to pretend otherwise. But overall, this offense should be much closer to the Ward offense than this particular offense in 2025, where honestly it was more above average than it was elite.
I said it yesterday when I was talking to Steve Kim. I just think they had to execute at such a high level. Not that you always have to execute at a high level. There was less margin for error.
Agreed. Yeah, the explosives just weren't as prevalent in 2025 as they were in 2024. Now, you can say some of that's game management, and I'll let you talk here in just a minute, Danny. But you can say that's game management, right? Where if you've got a lead and you're able to run the ball and you're able to control things, and you've got a defense that can stop the opponent, and you're up 10 points, in 2025 the game felt over, right, for Miami. In 2024, that was not the case, right? You're up 10, I got to keep scoring because that defense just was unable to stop them. So you probably called the game a little bit differently as well. I don't want to make excuses for the 2025 offense necessarily, but I do believe that you've got to factor in, the game situations a little bit, and the game script is really what we call it. So that's a little bit of a difference. I expect 2026's offense to just honestly be more talented, and with that, it's probably going to come a little more explosiveness as well.
So a couple things. So Martin Quinn asking, 247 gives Vandrevius Jacobs same 92 rating as Barkade. Is Jacobs really that good, or are they wrong? I think Jacobs is good. One thing again on these portal ratings is they very much tie it to NFL projection, which is why I think Mensah is lower than some guys. In my opinion, he should be way ahead of if you're trying to talk about college projection. Plus, I think Mensah, NFL, we say third or fourth round right now. That can go up, right, as we've seen with Ward. So I think 247 probably does too much of that, tying it to traits. And I love traits. I love NFL. But for a guy like Mensah, who just finished second in the country in passing with her in the Power 4 conference that he actually won, I don't think it makes sense to rank him where it ranks him. But it's the methodology that they use. So
I like Jacobs a lot, though.
Yeah, I think Jacobs can be good.
I keep going. I said it yesterday, too. I keep going back to the Clemson game, just watching the clips from that performance he had. And I'm like, I don't know how many guys on the roster this year could have done some of the things I saw him doing there. Right?
100%. We
need after the catch.
17 plus.
Yeah. So
if I was on here and, Barkate never existed, I would be happy with our wide receiver room from the 2 portal additions that we got. They were to me excellent, additions and players that you can celebrate. And, the West Virginia kid, I put out a couple of Twitter highlights of him just roasting people. Right. And people talk about, Jacobs more than Vaughn. And, I might rate Vaughn higher. I'm not saying definitively, but they're very similar players to me. I think both of them are absolute excellent additions to the room. One of the things I texted you about as we were kind of going to talk about, was I cannot believe the retention that Miami has had in the room with the additions that they're able to bring in as well. I mean, Mario must be one hell of a salesman for the players, that are kind of, developing and growing and doing those things to be able to keep all the kids that they did with some of the talent that they brought in. And the portal rankings, listen, you don't get me started on recruiting rankings, portal rankings at all. They are not trying to project how those players will do in college. They're trying to project their NFL draft status, which is why, you have 32 5 stars and all those kinds of things to go up with the NFL draft and correlate with that. It is not how are they going to perform in college. And so you really, to me, kind of have to separate those two things. I love pro Canes, I really do, but I am most focused on how are they going to do with the Miami Hurricanes. And that's my number one thing when I'm looking at film is trying to project what they're going to do at the college level with the college rules, with the setup that Miami has. And the talent is not equal in college like it is on the NFL. The margins are razor thin in the NFL. In college, Miami can go in twice as talented as some of the teams they play.
And I'll say this is the last thing I'll say on the receivers and the portal pickups. And I don't know what the exact numbers are, but you have to think you got all 3 of those guys because you had a lot of fans saying, hey, why don't you go make a run at a Cam Coleman or a Miller from Colorado who ended up at Arizona State. You probably got all 3 of those guys. I'm not saying these guys were cheap, but for what you would have had to pay for a Cam Coleman, right, who probably got $4+ million at Texas, right? Then you tell me where the value is, because I try to explain that to people sometimes when you talk about this portal stuff, and it's not like they don't want the premier positions. You got Damon Wilson, right? You got Mensah. Those are going to be very expensive pieces that you have to have really good evaluations across the board. And I think receiver is one of those we'll look back on a year from now and say they did a really, really good job there finding those guys.
I think resources are finite, right? And I think what you really need to do whenever you're building anything out is look availability of substitutes. And what I mean by that, right, is there are hundreds of wide receivers who probably fit what you're looking for and are probably pretty good in what your offense is going to be. Maybe they were underutilized. Maybe their skill set, maybe their quarterback stunk. Maybe the offense they were in. All of those things kind of play in, right? Now, you've got Cam Coleman who can go out and maybe he just makes a play because he's just so much more talented, right? And he wins you a game that way. But for the most part, receivers are going to be, you've got Jeremiah Smith, you got some of those guys, you got, our guy, right? And those guys are just maybe elite and they're special and they can change things on their own. But to me, receiver, there's hundreds of them that you can go out and get that can fit your offense and you can run well. Give me edge players and, tackles, line of scrimmage dudes all day long if I'm going to spend big on positions outside of quarterback. And I even believe that corners are more valuable in today's college game. A true corner that can, play off, he can play man, he can jam, press, all of those things. I much prefer spending my money on those places than I do on wide receivers or centers or linebackers or safeties, just like the NFL draft, right? Where the availability of substitutes is there and you can kind of scheme around some of the things. So to me, I'm not spending $4 million on a Cam Coleman if I can get a Barcade and I can get a Jacobs and I can get a Vaughn. for probably less, right? And put my focus on a Damon Wilson and, maybe some of the offensive line positions where maybe I would have spent a little bit more or found one more guy if it were me, but that's not the way it shook out. But yeah, that's kind of my philosophy on team building. If I were a GM of a college or an NFL team, that's the way I would look at things. I would really try and weigh my availability of substitutes.
And by the way, we do have a very expensive wide receiver one on the team.
Right.
So
let's also remember that. I did not mention that.
But that's that retention we're talking about, right? It costs money for those guys too, right?
Retention costs, yeah.
But Lance, I wanted to ask you about, you mentioned the 2024 offense, and I think that there are similarities. I do think Mensah is more like Ward than like Beck, certainly in terms of the weight, the arm angles, and quite frankly, in terms of the stats I think he's going to put up. I think he's going to put up a Heisman-type campaign. And I do think you look at that 2024 team, because the numbers were so big and they scored so much, you really had 5 receivers getting fed between Restrepo, who was an All-American. Someone corrected me in the comments. They were mad about that. All-American, Jacoby George, Horton, Sam Brown, and then Arroyo as a receiving tight end. So you had 5 guys catch a lot of passes on that team. So I can see it similar in that way. But one thing that team had that was, you see really with teams like the Seahawks and the Rams and the Pros and the Niners, they played a lot of tight ends in 2024. McCormick played a lot. Riley Williams played a lot. Obviously, Arroyo played a lot. They were able to get those body types on the field a lot. I'm not sure we have those body types on this team, which is unfortunate because I think the game's kind of going towards more what we did in 24, at least the pro game, where you want a lot of these big tight end bodies. I wish we had more. I wish we had more blocking tight ends. People always want to push Cam McCormick out. I want another Cam McCormick personally, but all that aside, we don't have that. So how do you see and nerd out as much as you want, from a formation a personnel group standpoint, when you have a quarterback in Mensah who can put up prolific passing numbers and likes to be that point guard, a lot of good receivers, a lot of good running backs, maybe not as much depth with those big body types of tight end.
Yeah, I talked a little bit earlier about his how prolific he is over the middle of the field. I mean, Duke had a dude at tight end. I don't remember his name off the top of my head, white guy. Yeah. But, man, he was really good, and Mensah spammed him, quite a bit. If it wasn't Barkay, if it wasn't Shepard, it was this tight end they had. And the tight end that they had, they utilized him in so many different ways that were similar to what you saw in McCormick and some of those individuals. Now, this kid's much more athletic and was a lot better in the passing game. But to also kind of go to your point, one of the things I personally felt like this offense missed in 2025 was Elijah Arroyo's vertical ability. He really threatened the seam, and I could, go into a lot of reasons why that really, impacts a defense because of all the split field coverages and the way they want to play those nowadays. If you've got a tight end that can, really threaten the seam vertically and make some of those catches, it really changes the way the defense has to, attack you and some of those split fields and the rolling late with some of the post safeties and the way that defenses are trying to attack and insert creepers and do some of the things. Think of all the things that Miami's defense does, right, under Heatherman. A vertical tight end really changes the way that defense is able to play that. The undersized guy that Ole Miss had that hurt us on that touchdown late, right? That's exactly what I'm talking about, where it broke some of our rules and he pops wide open in a huge spot, right? I felt like 2025 really, that offense really missed having somebody that could do those things. And, again, to your point, we move our tight ends around a lot, whether you want to call some of the guys that we utilize and the way we utilize them, whether you want to call them a fullback or you want to call them an F tight end, right? A Lofton, where we either offset or we put him in as a sniffer. Sometimes, we put him in line and move them around and do a lot of those whams, try and wash players down. I know Alex Bauman is getting a lot of heat from the national championship, so may not be, the most popular, but we used him a lot on some of those drive blocks and just trying to wash edge players down inside. And I felt like we just didn't have quite the power to be able to make that worth it as much as we did it, right? So if you're gonna have a player do that, he's really got to be effective in blocking. I felt like both the guys we had this year were just okay at that, I'm not sure if Lofton was injured. You've brought that up a few times. I live in Missouri, so he doesn't call me and tell me how his health is too much. But
shoulder, which I think at the beginning of the year was his blocking got better over the year. I think it was his shoulder.
Yep, and you saw that too, because I called him out quite a bit of times on upon further review. Like, why are you ducking and leading with the wrong shoulder on some of these plays? And if your shoulder's hurt, hey, that could be the reason why. So I'll give him a pass there, but he also just doesn't have the size and length that you're looking for. To me, he's a little bit more of an F tight end fullback type, which is how I would use him. And I would have him be a complementary player in some of your 12 and 13 looks that I know Miami wants to get to, because they run tight splits, they compress the formation quite a bit, they'll motion those tight ends in, they insert them as leads. So what I mean by that is, you can have a player who does maybe return motion where he goes towards the boundary and then returns back, and as he's kind of changed the angle that he's able to have, right, where he can then lead the running back through the hole, and the running back can then decide whether he follows through that hole or bounces. Miami did that quite a bit in 2025, and we even used wide receivers with it sometimes, right, because we just had limited tight ends that were available that could either do that, or it was just worth it to put a wide receiver out there. I think Josh Moore kind of has that type of body type, another player that you got to be happy to retain with all the players you brought in to be able to get him to come back, because I think he's got a bright future. I think he fits into some of that, where you might be able to use him to threaten the seam just a little bit as an offset. Maybe you don't move him to tight end, but he just lines up in the sense that you would typically have maybe a vertical tight end like an Arroyo was, and you can utilize them that way. The modern defenses the NFL modern defenses have made their way to college. The elite college programs are all running a variation of what Miami's doing, what Ohio State's doing, right? And now they have the players and the pieces on that side to be able to kind of move them around and play a lot of those matchups. And the offense now kind of has to, adjust back. We saw that in the playoffs, right? We saw a lot of defensive type battles when those teams that really had that talent to play those, matchup coverages and that modern style defense. And it really impacted the offenses. I mean, you saw some, 13 type point outputs, some 20 point outputs, things along those lines. The 10-7 game was probably influenced by wind a little bit, but that was also another of a defensive game, in my opinion. And so now offenses need to be able to kind of adjust to what the defenses are doing across the nation, and having some of those movable tight end pieces or that personnel that you can run 12, 13, and then, run variations out of that is going to be real important. To me, Mensah thrived with that. He really thrived, attacking the tight end. Like I said, he spammed quite a bit to that guy in big spots. I wish I had his name. It would probably give him
85. I forgot his name too. He was good though.
Yeah, he is good. I don't know if he's going pro or not, but maybe we can really piss Duke off and go steal that guy too. But
unenroll. It's Hasley.
There you go, Hasley. That is right. You got it. See, Pete's always on point. That's
they put it in the comments, and I just scrolled back up to the comments.
No, don't give the comments credit, man. You got to take that off yourself.
I will. I'll tell you this much, Lance. I got a name for you, and I said it yesterday.
Okay.
Jackson Carver season, baby. I love it. I would not be surprised to see him get in the mix, man. I just these guys and we're gonna do a segment when you get off about this. Like, there's some under the radar portal retention that I'm a fan of, outside of, like, we're all excited that Lyle came back, that Josh Moore came back, right? That the four corners come back. But like a Jackson Carver, to me, there's a reason he's still on the team, right? They didn't push him off the roster. He wants to be here. He's obviously recovered from. It looks like gotten back now from his knee injury that he had, and that's a big body there that can be put to use in that room, I believe. I'm not saying he's going to be a dynamic downfield pass catcher. That's not what I see him doing. But you talk about you need some bodies in there, some guys who can block a bit. He's someone that I'd look at very closely.
All right, let's see it on film. If I see it on film, I'll start touting Jackson.
Listen, I'm not saying you need to be touting it just yet, because we haven't seen it, but I'm just keeping my eye on it.
Well, I just know when we watched the Super Bowl, Is it this Sunday? It's a Sunday, right?
I don't know.
I didn't know. Super Bowl this Sunday or next Sunday? This is Pro Bowl, then it's next Sunday.
It's next Sunday, yeah.
Yeah. So we watch that game. You're going to see a lot of guys that look like a Carver. I'm not saying that they play, he's as good as those guys, but I want to get those body types back, man. I'm a little, and Whittle's on his way. We get a new tight end coach. Whoever the new tight end coach is, I just hope we get a little more guys in the building that they want to block, they can catch, but they're 6'5", 6'6", and they look like that, because that is, to
huge,
me, a move that is happening in all levels, especially the highest levels, and it's something that Miami, with the way we like to run the ball.
A couple years ago with the Cam Ward offense.
No, Riley Williams, both those guys. It's like we need to get back to that. I think we're missing that. But Lance, real quick, before we let you go, the offensive line, you expect that to take a step back. I think we all do, as far as you lose a Markel Bell. You said it earlier. You lose a Markel Bell, who is at the Senior Bowl. I know he got beat on that first rep, but I watched his other reps. He's been doing much better. And the amount Noah is going to go top 10. Those are big-time tackles out the door. I don't know if we're going to replace that level of just pass protection and veteran presence. It'll be at least a process with the young players, assuming a step back on the offensive line and pass protection, at least.
Yep.
How do you see us operating differently than we have when we had those monster tackles that you could bank on?
Yeah, well, I think you're going to see an impact in pass protection for sure. I mean, how many times did Beck just kind of hang out back there, right, and drink a Coke or whatever, I think you're going to see an impact there. One of the ways that you can adjust that is just like Ole Miss did to us, right, where, they really wanted to kind of minimize the impact of our edge players against some of their weaker tackles, is to get the ball out quicker, right? I think Mensah has that all over his tape, that's, probably his biggest strength is, hitting his first read and understanding what that should be based on the look that the defensive front's given him and the defensive coverage has given him. I think we've got the players to be able to win early, right? So that's going to be one of the things. Another is the run game. It really protects your pass protection, right? I think you're going to probably see Miami be a pretty heavy run team in 2026, just like they were in 2025. I think Mario definitely, as we were going throughout the playoffs, kind of leaned into that and just reaffirmed who he wants to be and what image he wants this program to be. And, when you bring back all of the running backs that they did, but don't get it twisted. I do think Miami is going to be able to mitigate a reduction in offensive line talent and probably still be a top 20 offensive line. If there's one spot at Miami that I believe in our coaching staff more than any other, it's going to be offensive line, right? The coaches see these players in practice all the time. I just made a joke about it with Jackson Carver, right? Because I'm not seeing it, but they are, right? And they know what they have behind the players who left. And guys, they look what they do in the portal. They know what they need, right? So they obviously believe in some of the young players that we have, whether it's a Max Buchanan, whether it's a Jackson Cantwell, who they've already had the ability to get a look at versus those elite players in practice, right? I don't know how much he went up against Mesidor and Bain and those players, but they've seen him, against that type of competition, right? And if they, he comes in and they go, ooh. It's like that, that kid that Nesta made cry, basically. And, when he came in, they knew immediately that guy wasn't the answer, right? I mean, he played like one snap.
Kennedy?
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds right. Kennedy sounds right. So, they would have had an inkling if that's what was happening, right? And I think you would have seen them go out and get. Now, they went after Seaton. I'm glad they didn't get him, quite honestly, because I feel like he is vastly overrated. We talk about $4 million for Coleman. $4 million for Seaton is just, whoa. That kid never had that on tape in my mind. Yeah. And I feel like he's all potential. He's like an NFL type potential just from size and feet and strength and God-given, traits. But the film does not represent that type of player. In fact, the film of the Georgia player is just as good, if not better, than Seaton in my mind. When I watched them, I feel like the Georgia kid's got a chance to be your left tackle. Quite honestly,
I like him a lot, man.
What did you watch? I'm curious. I'm trying to dig into that guy and his film. Pete's been saying that his sources are really high on him and how he moves and his upside with better coaching. Where did you watch him so people listening can watch and myself can go watch and study Jamal Merriweather?
Yeah, so being a film nerd like I kind of gets you some contracts sometimes and gives you an opportunity to see some things, and you do get a
got
chance.
The bootleg stuff.
Yeah.
You got the undercover stuff. All right, I got to talk to you. We got to do I got to send you some money in like Bitcoin or whatever. How they used to buy drugs on the internet, like that Silk Road. I'll send you some undercover money that can't get traced to watch this all 22.
He's an interesting player to me. I feel like the traits are there, and he's just really got natural strength in his hands, right? He's a little bit undersized. I'd like to see him, maybe add 10 pounds, quite honestly, just to be able to re-anchor a little bit. But goodness, he looks the part, he moves the part, and I really like his temperament too. The way people talk about him that I've had a chance to talk to, he's a kid that wants to be good. He didn't leave Georgia because he was, afraid. He honestly left for the coaching and development.
I've heard the same exact thing from Georgia people, Lance. So I'm glad that you're hearing the same, because I'm not just talking to Miami people on this one. I had someone reach out to me from the Georgia side saying this kid and they mentioned the same thing with the coaching he's going to get in Miami is going to be really good. So I'm high on him. I'm sky high on him. I really am.
Yeah. And guys, you've never accused me of coming on here and do nothing but, Pollyanna. I've criticized players on here before. If I don't like them, I'll either shut up or I'll tell you so, so I'm not just feeding you that because we need it. Right, we need someone to step forward.
Hey, you just shut down my Jackson Carver positivity a moment ago. So,
I did, but I did it with a smile. So there's something, right? But I'm high on that kid. I hope he comes in and wins left tackle. Truthfully, I don't fully believe in McCoy. If he proves me wrong, he proves me wrong. I see McCoy as a run blocker. Much better run blocker than I do as a pass blocker. I see Sampson as a much better pass blocker than I do a run blocker. So, maybe they put that together and they grow in those areas in 2026 and prove me wrong on that. And of course, I hope they do, right? I'm a huge Miami Hurricanes fan, but that's kind of where I see things. I see things going from, listen, Miami's offensive line to me was not just better than everybody. They were like a different tier. Like it was Miami 1, and then a line, and then any other team you want to put is in a different tier below what Miami was in 2025. It was so impressive in pass protection, especially. There were times in run blocking that I could nitpick, especially the interior, but in pass blocking, it was A+ at the college level. So you're probably going to be more of a B+, A-, which is still, going to be a top 10, top 20 offensive line in my view. I think the 2026 offense is going to be special. And I think the 2026 roster, as I look at it, is better than the 2025 roster. And we just played for a national title. So
that's a strong one. So I'm going to ask you a question to finish even stronger before we talk about our president, Canada Financial, who made this all possible.
Yeah.
Darren Mensah specifically. Yeah, you'll have more specific projections, I'm sure, as we get more information. And it's only January 30th. But what type of season, assuming normal health around him and for himself, what type of season do you project for Darren Mensah in this offense?
He's going to New York. Yeah, he's going to New York. He's on the podium of best quarterback in college right now, in my view. Like not projections to the NFL, none of those things, but he is the number one transfer portal quarterback. I have watched them all. I've watched them all because I knew we needed one, right? And it's January, and we've been talking about it for a month and a half, right? I don't mean that he's in a tier of his own, like I talked about the offensive line, right? You could argue Sorsby because of his tools, right? He's got a chance to really be great. And to me, that is a game changer for Texas Tech, by the way, because Texas Tech's quarterback was Cheeks, and I talked about him being Cheeks in October. I knew they were not going to win the national title because that quarterback stunk. Anyway, and so to go from that guy to Sorsby, just a game changer for them because Sorsby is good. If you wanted to go that route, I would have understood it. Tools, I would have understood that. I am not a Levitt guy. I have never been a Levitt guy. They talked about him, when Ward was coming, right? That maybe we go after him a little bit, right? I I have heard some things about him behind the scenes. I have heard some things about the way that he operates. Some of his game film, bears out some of that temperament and football character. I don't know the guy on film. I would have him in a tier below both Mensah and Sorsby. Mestamaker, really, really impressed with him. It's a projection to go from a North Texas in a kind of a weird offense to a team that would play, a little bit more execution on style at Miami. I'm not saying that he wouldn't have been good here, but I definitely put Mensah and Sorsby ahead of him as well. And then you're kind of, from there, having Lagway above Mensah in your transfer portal is an absolute joke. It's an absolute joke. The player just had some highlight reel throws, and that's going to last him a lifetime. His bank account's going to be forever flush because he made a couple of throws as a freshman that were physically impressive. But if you watch his game tape overall, I mean, he's in tier 5. He is not anywhere near the planet of those other players. Maybe he gets there because he does have talent, but he's not there right now, right? And from there, Raiola, again, a nice player. I feel like he's accurate on his first read. He definitely has some tools, but he's going to a place and sitting behind another quarterback, and that kind of tells you that he's not going to be a player.
Weird decision, man. I don't get that one. That one I don't understand. I don't understand why Dante Moore did it, but
I understood why Moore did it. As a true freshman that probably wasn't quite ready to play at the time. But you're talking about Raiola going into his draft year, really, and he's going to sit. That just doesn't make any sense to me either. $5 million or whatever he's getting probably makes it worth it to him. But that was a weird one. But again, to have him ahead of Mensah in the transfer portal rankings is a joke. So,
yeah, we're on the same page, man. So we'll see you in New York. But until then, a lot of speculation and analysis to be done. And as always, it is brought to you by Canada Financial. Lance, before you go, tell everybody why Canada Financial can help their small business. I talked to somebody at the Lickin' who has multiple businesses and is working with Canada Financial on his small business and is very, very happy with what he is getting in return there. So let's talk about those guys.
Yeah, anytime you're talking about the finance world, people's eyes that kind of glass over just a little bit, and it's not most people's favorite thing to do, right? But it is at Canada Financial. That's what they do. That's their world. What they can do is provide you CFO services to take your small business from, strong to thriving. They can find ways to make you more profitable. If you need bookkeeping, they can handle that for you. And a lot of people need help with their budgeting and forecasting and just understanding what it's trying to do. How does it work? How can it grow the profitability of your small business? Reach out to Canada Financial at CanadaFinancial.com. They will, provide you with a CFO for your small business and allow you to take your attention to grow in your business and doing the things that, you excel at, and let them do the things that they excel at, which is being your CFO.
Canada Financial, CANNATA financial.com. Lance, man, appreciate you. We will see you next week.
All right. Thanks for having me on, guys. Take care.
The Oracle of the Ozarks. Always good, man. Always good to talk to our boy Glance there. Someone said he was letting his hair down with some of the chirping he was doing.
Yeah, professor. Man, you make a run like we just made now. There's gonna be a lot more confident people in the offseason, I think. We actually have something to base it off of now.
Hey, I love it, man. And I'll tell you who's feeling good in the offseason. That is my boy, the OrchidMan, ORCHID man, Florida.com. You want your landscape done right, talk to the landscape artisans of South Florida, ORCHID man, Florida.com, 786-271-0332 for your appointment. Commercial, residential, they will take care of you. Irrigation, tree stump grinding, hurricane prep, all the stuff you don't want to think about, they will take off your hands, as well as helping you with the pretty stuff, the flowers, the plants, and all that. They're the best in the business. ORCHID man, Florida.com.
We have a few things that we have to get into, but Senior Bowl, we haven't really talked Senior Bowl much. Markel Bell is participating. James Brockermeyer is participating. It's a little bit less hyped up for the Canes fans because Bain, Mesidor, as by the way, I don't know that if your body feels okay, Markel Bell and Brockermeyer, they went out there and did it. But to go out there a week after the championship game, after the season they had, crazy to me. I salute them for trying to, help their stock. Like you said, Markel Bell had that one rep, which I told you, I had my guy Titus Howard. The same thing happened to him against Montez Sweat, but the scouts want to see how you respond from that moment. I will bring this, and also Jacoby Thomas did not participate. Keontae Scott did not participate. Carson Beck, from what I understand, had an opportunity, but they didn't really announce it to say he turned it down. And I think he's just now in prep mode really for his process, which again, after the long season they had, I have no problem with that. But I wanted to bring this up. This just came across my timeline from one of the more respected draft analysts out there. And I believe his dad has been a longtime scout or coach in the NFL, Lance Zierlein.
Oh, yeah. O-line coach.
So Lance Zierlein just tweeted this out. So John Owning, who's another draft analyst here, was talking about James Brockermeyer looking good in one-on-ones yesterday. Lance Zierlein said, good. He looked incredible, stuffed every bull rush try, saw super rare for any center to do that in Senior Bowl one-on-ones like we've seen. It's not very a lot of times the centers don't have those one-on-ones. They're there to help, right? They're not getting exposed to the one-on-ones a lot of times. But if he's doing it in this setting, I think I'm talking to a scout earlier this week. Guy who's definitely going to get drafted. The question is, how early? There's obviously some at that position, less versatility. You're going in probably to be a starter somewhere. So it could be like a fifth round type of situation here for him.
No doubt. That'd be huge if he gets drafted at all. I think it's huge. It'd be interesting because you look at the last kind of 3 years, most of those guys that played, Carpenter didn't get drafted, but most of the guys that played would have been in the NFL. Brockermeyer was one I wasn't sure about just because physical stuff, but the way he finished the season, the way he's playing at the Senior Bowl, definitely making his case. And, there's a guy that people thought was a liability. And I think he settled that question over the playoff run, did a great job against Ohio State and McDonald first-round pick. And now you're seeing that carry over to the Senior Bowl. Markel Bell, Pete, I know people talked about the one where I've heard different offensive linemen break it down, like former O-lineman, did he slip? Was it just bad footwork? Him just getting smashed there on that first rep. But the second rep, he went and stuffed the guy, got into him early with his long arms, the Moore from Michigan, and he had just other good reps as well. You said it, you've been to the Senior Bowl a bunch of times, you worked with these guys. It's not just about the rep. It's good for viral videos, but a lot of it's about the response.
Yeah. The demeanor of the player, making sure that they just pop back up with the right attitude and they attack their next reps well. And everything that I heard is that he did that, right? I think whatever you want to chalk it up to, I think there are definitely concerns about the player, right? It's not like that one rep is not the end all be all, but there's also, we understand he's not a finished product yet. So that's what you have to understand with him. And I know people are going to continue to say he should have come back. The waiver situation, was not. I keep trying to walk through the situation. It was denied. He could have probably fought it.
Yeah.
But then you're stuck in this situation. Like Trinidad Chambliss is in a very weird spot right now.
Yeah. No Senior Bowl.
If he gets messed up by this legal process here, he's going to be in the draft without having this opportunity to be in the Senior Bowl. He'll probably do pro day and all that just fine at that point. But he's in limbo right now. Right? Is he preparing is he with his team working out? Is he getting ready for the draft? It's a weird situation. So I don't blame Bell for saying, you know what, I'm just going to go now. It was a really good playoff run. Could he have fought it and maybe got his way back here and helped himself? Maybe, but I still think with him, those physical limitations we talk about how big he is, but the movement stuff is going to be the question more than anything. He's going to get drafted. He's going to be on an active roster.
Yeah.
The question is how quickly can he adjust? And sometimes the one thing I'll say with offensive linemen, having represented guys who are, maybe fringe guys, is those reps can be few and far between if you aren't a starter.
Yeah.
It's just not like there isn't as much of this rotation stuff. In training camp, you get your reps, but talk about that real valuable work with the first team. So I just hope he goes into a situation where he's able to develop. There's not as much development that goes on in the NFL.
Yeah.
There just isn't. They see what you are, and if you don't have it, they move on rather quickly. And I'm not saying that's what he is, but you're not going to have as many people sitting there holding your hand and really trying to work on the intricacies of the position. So it's going to take some outside of the building work with him as well. But I think we're both big believers on what he can be. And I think he'll have a long career. I'm just saying, like, the situation is going to matter with him.
JVP says, love the insight into Pete's mind on NFL versus college football. You know, one thing I'd love to see is Bell, when he gets drafted, that Eagles logo pop up. Yeah. I think that would be a great spot for him.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, I think that you got to go to a place that's committed to developing the position. And it's not just what I just said is true. They're going to move on quickly in the NFL, but you want him to go to a place like the Eagles where, yes, there's some flux right now with their offensive staff, but you know what the culture of the Eagles is, right? And you know what their identity is. The Bills, it's another place too, right? That, again, there's change right now, but you know that they're in it to go and try to go win a Super Bowl as soon as they possibly can. So one of those spots would be great for him.
And look, overall, I want to see I want to see all these guys get drafted. Obviously, I love these guys, and I want the Canes to have that representation. I'm saying 10 to me. Anything in that, if you get double digits, you're really, really feeling awesome about what you did this year. I think the ones we can kind of put in the bank, Beck will get drafted. Markell will get drafted somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Mauanoa,
of course, will get drafted. Bain and Messidor will be probably first-round picks, so that's
Ness Cooper should be a late-round pick.
Yeah, Ness Cooper. You can't. Scott will get drafted.
Yeah.
I would say Jacoby Thomas, with what he put on tape, will be, assuming the combine goes well, I think he'll be more athletic than people think. I could see him being like I think day 3, special teams too. So that's 8 that you feel pretty good about. Cooper, it wouldn't shock me if Cooper went undrafted, but I think he probably gets drafted. So that'd be 8. And then you get into who we're missing. The Wesley Basaints of the world.
Wes.
The Brockermeyers, who we just talked about. Brockermeyer would move that up a little bit. You know, some guys came back that maybe we thought wouldn't. So that changes the calculus as far as getting to 10. Who am I missing here? Yeah, I guess 10 would be a high end number.
Yeah.
Keelan Marion, maybe with the kickoff rules. Could he be a guy?
Could. I mean, he didn't do it this year, but he showed it at BYU.
Yeah.
Right. So it'll be fun to track it, though. We don't have to hold our heads in shame like we have in recent years. So
for sure. And it's going up. Right. So last year I think it was 7. The year before, so just
Blay, good call. David Blay he'll probably be a day 3 pick. I think there was a point where there was I think some belief that he could be a top 100 sort of pick. I don't know that it played out that way this year for him, but his body type will get him picked for sure.
And just for some perspective, guys, this is to me very important because we said, and I'm going to go back. I did the recruiting retrospectives during the preseason. I kind of stopped because the season got hot. I will resume with the Richt era. So we finished off the golden era. I'll resume with the Richt era now that the season's done. We're getting into the off season. But one thing is I already ran the numbers, so I know recruiting fell off heavily after Golden during Richt and Manny. The numbers will shock you once you see them, but just in terms of the draft, when Mario got here, so 2022, this was Manny's team, basically. Manny's 2021 team, their draft year. So Mario was the coach already, but he hadn't coached any of these players. So 2022, one player picked, who, Pete, you were the only person saying he was going to get drafted at that time in the media. 7th round pick, Jonathan Ford.
It was also my client, so.
Yeah, you were right. You were right. 7th round pick. Maybe you didn't say it to me. Maybe you just told me and you were right. But you were right.
No, I think I did say it on the show because that was the year it was him and DJ Ivy coming on, and we were both like, look, like both of these guys.
Well, Ivy was the next year. So
it was. But it was a similar situation for sure.
So Mario inherits Manny's team. These are not guys Mario coached, but it's just to show you where we started. Jonathan Ford, 7th round pick, the only pick that year. The next year, this was Mario's first year, the year we went 5-7. Tyreek Stevenson, 2nd round pick, good pro, obviously, starts. Will Mallory, who kind of passed there in the last week, he's still hanging around. And then DJ Ivy, who's playing for the Bengals. So 3 guys, they stuck it, they made it, but there was only 3. Next year, 4 guys. Cam Kitchens, Jaden Davis, who was a transfer Mario brought in, Matt Lee, who was a transfer Mario brought in, and James Williams, that linebacker. So you go from 1 to 3 to 4. Last year, right, which was the Cam Ward year. Cam Ward, Arroyo, Rivers, Malinoa, Barron, Borregales, Martinez. So you had 7. Now, 2026, where you see Mario's first full class, that 23 class with Malinoa and Bain, start to become draft eligible. Ines Cooper, who was in Mario's first transition class. Let's see how many of these guys get drafted. We'll be interested to see. Also, Nigel Lee Kelly, I think, will get drafted. I think Colby Young could get drafted.
Yeah.
Those are guys that
Nigel Lee's going to the Senior Bowl, and he declared early with another year of eligibility, which means he probably got some really good feedback.
Right.
And he's got some upside going into the league, man.
So we might see some of those guys who Mario signed in his first class but didn't get drafted as well. Isaiah Horton went back to college, so he's another one, but he'll probably get drafted too. It'll be interesting looking back to see how many of these guys get drafted. But overall, the trend of upward movement with the draft picks is a very, very welcome sight, and we are seeing that play out here at the Senior Bowl.
No doubt about it. We talked a lot about portal, right? And we talked a lot about retentions, and we kind of spoke about it here with Lance a moment ago. We understand the 4 corners coming back was huge. We understand that Jordan Lyle coming back was huge. Getting Josh Moore back. These were all things that were kind of hanging in the balance a bit, right? Yep. We didn't really know for sure whether or not all these guys would be back for one reason or another. But let me tell you something. There's some guys that I don't think we've spoken about enough that have kind of flown under the radar, a handful of guys here. And we talked about one yesterday, Cole McConaughey.
Yeah.
I think it's important to take a look at each of these players and try to see, like, okay, why did they stick around? What could they role could they play? What could they bring to the team here? And I think all of them could be in for big springs here. So we'll start with Cole McConaughey.
Yeah, Cole McConaughey is a guy that when he first got here as an underrated 3-star, he was committed to Louisville. Phillip Rivers, actually, funny enough, he's been in the headlines lately. He put in the word. He said, because Phillip Rivers was a high school coach in Alabama, McConaughey from Mobile, Alabama. Rivers had a connection to Coach Stroud on Miami staff, who's been around forever. I think he coached him at NC State. And he told Coach Stroud, he goes, hey, I played against this guy, Cole McConaughey. He's really good. He's committed to Louisville. He's one of the best players we played against. He definitely can play for Miami. And I think that's how that whole thing got started. Miami ended up taking McConaughey from Louisville and bringing him in. And he was going to play a lot his first year, did play a lot, in fact. He played in the Florida game on defense, played a couple games in that 2024 season on defense as a true freshman. Then the injury started happening. I was there the day he got injured before this season. He just kind of – it was always something, some more serious than others, but some, serious multi-week, months cases, in certain cases, injuries. So he's been banged up consistently. You have the Booker Pickett's of the world, the Marquise Lightfoots of the world, guys that we know are going to be slim and are going to get after that passer. Guys with the bigger bodies, there's less of them. And I think Hayden Lowe's one. He hasn't played. He's another one that's been injured, right? Armando Blunt's playing a lot more defensive tackle these days. Damon Wilson, bigger, but I think probably more of a pass rusher himself. He's not as good against the run. At least he hasn't been to this point. So a guy like McConaughey who could give you both, I think has a big opportunity.
Inside a little bit too? I mean, depending on I don't know what he's wearing right now, D, but I've seen him around. He's a big boy.
Yeah.
He's not a lanky pass rusher as you're talking about, right?
But he's tall.
He's tall. But I'm saying that's what I'm saying though. He's stout.
Yeah.
He's not the same build as some of these guys coming. Even some of the young guys. Like we're big fans of Ashari Charles, DeAnthony Lafayette, but those guys are a bit shorter and they don't weigh as much as McConaughey. So you're going on now. He's going to have that grown man sort of strength, you hope, going on year 3 here. And I think he could be a nice rotational piece for this defense.
Absolutely. By the way, appreciate you, JVP October. We love starting our day with you guys, man. This is the easiest job in the world. People were like, "Oh, you're getting real busy around portal season," and
portal season can be a little stressful, D.
Yeah, it was stressful when you have a quarterback. Talking about him is easy. If we had Mensah week 1, it would have been the easiest shows we ever did. But it was a little dramatic. But yeah, it's the work part is easy, and it's just great talking to all you guys. So, Pete, who else do you like as an under-the-radar portal retention?
I've talked Jackson Carver. We wouldn't have to go more in depth on him. We just talked about him with Lance, but I think that's one that I'm looking at.
I like that.
Chris Wheatley-Humphrey, because he was one of your starting kick returners this year, right? And people may say, well, what did he do? He didn't. I understand, but that's still a guy that's a returning starter at that spot that they feel comfortable enough. This guy was returning
I think he touched the ball in the championship.
He touched the ball in the championship, maybe also in the Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then I look at it. We were talking about before the show. I said, hey, if Pringle goes down, he's really more the speedster. You mentioned there's Lyle. He's still there and he can provide a lot of that. We saw the run against USF freshman year, and we understand he was banged up this year. I'm not sleeping on Wheatley Humphrey though. He's sticking around. You mentioned he had a really good spring last year.
Yeah.
So I understand what we as fans may perceive as the pecking order in that running back room. We've been very, very lucky with injuries there. Outside of Lyle last year, Pringle actually was banged up at the beginning of the year, and he's not the biggest guy in the world, so it could happen. We've been very, very lucky there. But let's remember, a couple of years ago, you had to bring in, not a couple of years ago, more than that now, but you had Lucius Stanley
off the street.
From literally, from UAB and then wasn't anywhere. So you're an injury or two away always at that position. Wheatley Humphrey is one that, again, I go back to him being a starting kick returner. And it's going to take something probably for someone to leap over that, because that's a position of trust for sure. A lot of times. One to keep in the back of our minds here.
Yeah, I love the name, Pete, because there's no second window. So you cannot go in the waiver wire and pick somebody up. These are our guys. And cornerback, I remember last year we'll say we have too many corners. Well, we ended up testing that depth big time by the end of the season. 16-game season, hopefully another 16-game season here for the Canes. But you never have too much. And I think with Wheatley Humphrey, especially the fact that if, God forbid, one of the guys you're counting on gets a season-ending injury or season-threatening injury in spring, again, God forbid, I don't even want to say it, but you can't go into the portal and get someone else. So this was, to me, I agree, it was a huge one for practice reps, for opportunities to play. He reminds me a lot, Wheatley Humphrey, of Henry Parrish, who we had in Miami, who always played in a rotation, was never the number one workhorse guy, whether he was at Ole Miss or Miami, but he was always in the rotation, always helping, always getting positive yards. I could see that being a role for Chris Wheatley Humphrey. We're seeing a comment here. He wasn't on our list, but I'm seeing people talk about him in the comments, and I want to bring him up. Ryan Mack.
Yeah, he's someone that I thought about. I personally haven't heard anything recently.
It's all same as injury, same as McConaughey. It's injuries, right? So we forget about these guys because they're so banged up all the time. But when they get healthy, kind of like a Chase Smith, then hey, now they're big parts of what you're trying to do. We never talked about Chase Smith when he was always kind of on the sideline injured. Yeah. Now he's back and playing. So Ryan Day, much younger player, obviously entering his third year, same class as OJ.
You say Ryan Day?
Sorry, Ryan Mack.
We're getting a lot of Dylan Day.
Dylan Day, exactly. We're getting mixed up. But Ryan Mack, I'm sorry, same class as OJ Frederic. His father, Rod Mack, former Cane, talked to him a little bit before the Fiesta Bowl. He coached all these guys. He coached Jeremiah Smith, he coached all the best players for that Miami Gardens Ravens team. So this guy who grew up around football, had a really, really good senior year. Talking about Ryan Mack, went to the Under Armour game and his stocks exploded there because he was covering all the top receivers in the country. I believe that was the year they had like Cam Coleman and all these guys. It was a really loaded receiver year in general. So covering those guys out there in Orlando got his name up a lot. So I think he has a great opportunity. Keontae Scott out the door. Could Ryan Mack be your nickel? Chris Ewald. Those are all guys that came back that I think are going to compete in that defensive back room, which to me is I don't think it has too many guys because we saw your depth will get tested, but I think it is a deep room that can withstand injuries and can withstand underperformance and can maybe see some overperformance from different guys. And Mack, Chris Ewald, all part of that in that room. So glad the chat brought him up.
I'm going to bring someone up on the offensive line, Juan Minaya. This is a guy that when he was offered, he didn't have really many big offers. Everything we heard was that they called him Door because he was the size of a door. Yeah. We heard that Mirabal loved his movement skills. Yeah. Right when he got on campus, the feedback that I got, and I think you got some similar stuff, was he's not ready yet. He's gonna take some time. We'll see. We'll check back in a couple months here. By the later part of the season, when you're talking about practice squad guy or what is it? Practice squad? It's not practice squad. It's
scout team.
Scout team, right? When you're talking about scout team guys that
you're in that NFL.
Yeah, I'm still in the NFL mode, right? So you have scout team. Certain young guys are going to stick out. He's someone freshman year that by the end of the year you're saying, okay, he's starting to get it a little bit. Wasn't going to play last year with the line that you had, but now you're bringing him in now for year 3. physically getting to where you want him to be. The movement's still the movement. Can he finally take that next step and push to be maybe he's the sixth offensive lineman? Maybe he pushes for one of the guard spots, right? If you're playing a McCoy at tackle, we're talking about Max Buchanan. They love him, but Mensah is one that I just say, he's got the size, he's got the movement. He's been in the program now for 3 years. I believe he was an early enrollee when he came in as well. Under Coach Miraball's development, I'm not gonna be counting anyone like that out.
Yeah, no, I like the reference. I think you lose a Kinsler to the portal, he goes to Ole Miss. So you just that role that you thought Kinsler might be able to fill, who's going to fill that role? He looks the part. He kind of reminds me physically of remember Figueroa?
Yeah, Joel Figueroa. Yeah,
another big Dominican kid. So maybe that's.
I think he's taller than Figueroa.
Yes,
though.
and
he can move a little bit better.
Yeah, he's more talented. I think just
a lot of stereotyping going on there.
a little bit of Dominican stereotyping, but tough guy. With Mensah, he'll have a week where you'll hear his name a lot. Like, man, Mensah is really pushing. And then he'll kind of fall back a little bit, which these are young players. Yeah. That inconsistency happens a lot of times. Very rarely are they Francis Malinois. I mean, think about the road that Okunlola took to get here, right? Where a lot of stops and starts, and then here year 3, which now Mensah entering year 3, is when you saw Okunlola become a reliable guard. In my opinion, probably entering the season as one of the best guards in the ACC.
Right.
So Mensah has the size. He has the athleticism. He's going to look the part. If you didn't know who is who and what's what, if you see Mensah on the field, you're not going to be like, who is that in a negative way?
Right.
He fits in size-wise. So interesting challenge for Mirabal and for Mensah himself to see if he can maximize what he has.
And then the last name that I had is Dalen Upshaw, because we're excited about the portal additions. I think we've talked a lot about Josh Moore retaining him, but Upshaw was trending in a great direction. Yeah. He would have been a guy who was getting snaps in this playoff run if he wouldn't have gotten hurt. Probably misses. I mean, I don't know what it looks like now in springtime with his injury. I don't know what the timetable is for recovery with stuff getting pushed back as much as it has been. Maybe he's able to get out there, but foot injuries are also something you want to be careful with. I'm excited about him though, because and again, we talk about retention. Not everyone's retained for the same. Not everyone's retention story is the same. Not everyone has huge programs coming at them trying to lure them out and poach them. And tamper with them. That's not always the case. It may be, hey, I could go to a smaller level and be the man over there. I can go to a G. This one, Dalen Upshaw, he had SEC schools coming at him because he's from that area. You know that he was someone that was on some of these schools' radars, and you're able to keep him through all of that with the injury. I mean, look, maybe the injury helps you retain him in a case like that, because schools are less likely to say, hey, we're going to give you this big deal here while you're hurt. But love Upshaw. And I think he's got some speed, man. You talk about speed on the outside. You saw that. Which game was it? He took a pass like 41 yards.
Syracuse. It was honestly one of the low-key underrated plays of the year, because we were stuck in the mud. And we were stuck in the mud before that. The crowd was dead. That kind of woke him up. We ended up finishing Syracuse strong and then going on a run. He made a lot of plays down the stretch. There wasn't like a volume of plays, but every game he'd make a big play, a third down here or there, and you could see the flashes. He might have done that in the playoffs if he was healthy.
He had a catch against Pitt too.
Yeah, big one. And VTech. If he would have stayed healthy, he could have done that potentially in the playoffs. And we're not even talking about low-key retention. We're talking about high-key retention, right? So I'm a big Upshaw fan.
That's why everyone was talking about Moore, and I'm like, I'm a huge Josh Moore guy. Don't get me wrong. And he was playing in the championship game. Well, Upshaw is completely different receiver, but right up there in terms of importance in keeping him.
And let's compete, man. It's gonna be a lot of competition there. By the way, shout out to Mark from the UM Hall of Fame there at the bar. We got some dignitaries here. Hey, Mark, what's up? What's going on? Got UM dignitaries just walking into Duffy's because it is the home of the Hurricanes. So, last under the radar guy I wanted to get into, Pete, and we've talked about a bunch here, but I'm going to go with Luke Nickel. How about that one?
Yeah, good one.
Actually, I'm going to go with two. We'll go with Luke Nickel and Judd Anderson. Let's talk about both of those guys because Emery goes out the door. Obviously, Darion's coming in, so he's not going anywhere. Beck graduates, he'll go to the NFL. So you're talking about two guys who could have left with Nickel and Judd Anderson. Really, you got both of them back. So I think here's the significance. Nickel's a guy that we both have liked since high school, made a lot of plays in high school. In the spring game, you saw him flash a little bit. Very good mover for he's not like the most speedy guy, but he ran in high school.
Let's see how you put this one.
Well, I had the Jalen Hurts at Tebow comparison. It's really just that they ran similar plays in high school, just to give a concept. They did those plays. He had power. He ran quarterback power.
Show in the old studio. I gotta find that one.
You gotta find it
just to laugh at it.
Once he does some of those plays in college, we'll bring that.
And I'm not laughing at it because I'm not saying it was like wrong. It's just like it was a funny. Funny
well, look, we'll see what the future holds. But anyways, they ran plays in high school to get his legs going as far as like running plays. So and he can also do that on passing plays. He's a guy that can run to throw. He has a great feel for movement. He did that in the spring game as well. Strong body guy, even though he's not the tallest guy. So I like Luke Nickel. Hugely prolific in Georgia. He won the state championship. I think they're number 2 in the nation his senior year. So he's a guy that can get it done. When he got here, I thought because of Emery, because of some of the depth at quarterback, Carson Beck needing all the reps he could get, especially when he came back, Nickel didn't get that many reps with good players. And I say good meaning like college Power 4 capable players. You guys are all, if you're playing if you're a scout team in Miami, you're good. But I mean, in terms of P4 caliber players, he didn't get that much time with those type of players at Miami his first year. He was a little lower on the depth chart. He had a lot of interceptions. I'm not going to hide from it. He had a lot of interceptions in practice. To me, I took it as a positive because he was challenging defensive backs. He was throwing in tight windows. He was throwing with anticipation. When you don't have guys that are going to make you right on those plays, like when Mensah throws risky throws with anticipation and Cooper Barcade makes them right, it's one thing. But if he's doing the same play with a walk-on in practice, it could get intercepted. So I like the gumption that Nickel plays with. I like the aggressiveness. I like the short memory. I think as he goes with better players here, and now the receiver depth, you talked about Dalen Upshaw. Upshaw is going to be on that second and third team. So Morin Wingo is going to be deep down the line, right? I mean, there's going to be guys that are really good players that are playing with these second and third teams, at least at times. So I think Nickel's going to get a chance to really move up the ranks and show what he can do. And then Judd, same boat, right? When those reps, Judd also had a lot of reps with guys that weren't as good. He is as someone who I think probably needed more development than Nickel coming out.
I'm not counting Judd out in that backup QB conversation.
He could do it. This is his third year now, right? Or is his fourth year? No, third year. Third year. So redshirt sophomore and a lot of tools. You always talk about it when you go to practice. You see him make a good throw, and you're like, man, that looks right.
The 25, 30 minutes that I watch of the media viewing portion, that's a lot of just like positional work. Has nothing to do with reading a defense or completing a ball between a window and all that. But it just looks nice. I mean, he's got a big arm. He's athletic. He's got that, which is that's the baseline of a lot of this stuff right now. How quickly can he process? How quickly does he get the ball out? I mean, what does it look like when he sees some pressure? I don't see that aspect of it. I'm not there for that. But if you can get him to do a couple things well, and then he can move the feet with, move the chains with his feet a little bit. He's got the size that he's got, so he can take a hit. I don't know. I'm just keeping it as an option. The guy was now here on year 3. So, and again, stayed around.
Likes Miami.
Yeah, likes Miami.
So here's a comment from Nick West, our boy, Papa's Alternative Brew. By the way, check out Papa's Alt Brew if you want to get the buzz without the booze. 7.5 to 10 milligrams of THC. That's Papa's Alt Brew, owned by the man right here, Nick West. He's saying, you're hearing right now, Nickel will win the Heisman. Just kind of playing around there. But he's also saying Judd needs to add weight. Or maybe he's not playing around. Maybe he's talking down the road. And then Nick West says Judd needs to add weight and go the Blake Bell route. So what I would say is this, and I'll be honest, Pete, last night at like 12:30 a.m., I couldn't sleep. I was watching Judd Anderson senior highlights to see some of his running stuff.
I
and
told
see
you, I said on the show yesterday
caught a
that
touchdown.
or 2 days ago, it was a very serious thing. I got a call from D Money in the middle of the day, and he just started telling me about how he thought Judd could be a tight end here.
Late night,
into it.
And thank you, Nick, for reminding me of this. I got to get this in my daily lexicon. Use promo code Canes at Papa's Alt Brew, and you get 25% off. Promo code Canes, papasaltbrew.com for 25% off. Ships all over the country, including Florida. Promo code Canes, 25% off. I'll get that locked in here. We got a lot of spots here, Nick. We're going to be doing this for a while, man. Love the product. I was drinking a Papa's Alt Brew while I was watching those.
We got to get it here in Duffy.
We got to get it at Duffy. But I was drinking my Papa's Alt Brew, alternative brew, watching the Judd Anderson highlights, and look, if he's the second quarterback,
maybe now I understand why you were having thoughts you were having.
If he's second team quarterback coming out of camp, he's second team quarterback out of spring. If him and Nickel or him and Darian Coleman, they're all kind of neck and neck, maybe let it ride to fall and see how the summer goes. If he falls behind, and again, we'll know when we see the games or the practices. If he falls behind, I would have a real conversation with him, be like, man, dude, you're 6'6", you're 235 right now. You could probably get to 245 pretty easily. There's a long list of quarterbacks in the NFL, or tight ends in the NFL that were quarterbacks as late as college. Blake Bell being one name, Stowers from Vanderbilt. There's a million. Buck Ortega for the Canes, who played in the NFL for a while. I think this guy, man, he had a play where it was a throwback. It was basically the Carson Beck pass where they threw it back to him and he ran it in, but he did like a flip into the end zone. Like, he is a super athletic guy. I always say this anecdote. He was not a guard or a distributor, even though he was a quarterback when he played basketball. He was a forward center, averaged 19 points, 12 rebounds a game. You averaged 12 rebounds.
Nice little mid-range jumper. I remember interviewing him and talking to him about it.
But he was a beast on the boards. And what's that? Going up and getting it, right? This dude can really run. I don't think people realize how fast Judd Anderson is.
So you're saying he's like Drake May?
Could if he stays a quarterback. Or I think Drake May was a guard, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Drake May was a guard. I think
his brother was a forward.
Could he be like a Jimmy Graham? Not saying he's that. Not saying he's that good. But I'm saying, like, these guys that are
off seasons. We're 3 days into the off season and things have already devolved, man.
But I'm saying guys that get rebounds, guys that can run, guys that have height, guys that have size. That's what you want at tight end because they go up and get it. I think this guy could be a hell of a tight end. He can really, really run. I've seen him in practice, man. He runs by our linebackers. But if he's a second quarterback, he's a second quarterback. I'm just saying we need tight ends. No one's coming off the waiver wire. If he falls behind in the battle, I wouldn't mind putting him at tight end. If he's a second quarterback, then great. He's a second quarterback. The battle will tell the story. But he has a chance to be a tight end that plays for a long time. There are a million guys that have done it. I'm not saying he's going to have like 100 touchdowns, whatever Jimmy Graham had in the pros. Jimmy Graham was a spectacular athlete. But Blake Bell, like some of these guys, how many teams do you have guys that they're tight ends and you see them take like the direct snaps on short yardage and they run it in? They're like, oh, this guy was a high school quarterback, or this guy was a college quarterback in D2 and he transferred and moved to. It happens all the time. I think Anderson can do some of those things. Buck Ortega is probably the more realistic comparison in terms of a Miami guy, not a Jimmy Graham type impact, but something with tight end. We'll see. Let's see how it plays out in spring. I hope he's open to it if he doesn't have the progression at quarterback he hopes.
Did Buck Ortega, I know he played quarterback at Gulliver. When he came here, was he a quarterback
for like a brief time? I think he switched earlier than Judd did. Maybe. Right. He was quarterback, though, for a period of time. At least the first year. He played in a game at quarterback and didn't look too good. Moved to tight end, played a few years in the pros.
Jonathan Crumbly says, I just want to see us develop and feature the tight end.
Oh, sorry. There you go.
In our sorry.
we're like Jonathan Crumbly. We're like playing Hungry Hippos. Like, I hit it, then you hit it, then I hit it, then you hit it.
I just want to see us develop and feature the tight end position in our offense. We can't develop QBs. We can't develop tight ends. What can we do here, man? I will say, man, I keep going back to this when people talk about featuring the tight end. Who did you want them to feature this year? Lofton wasn't right.
Nope.
He was playing his role by the end of the season, I think, well. Bauman was what he was, unfortunately, there, and it just didn't work out to the level that we thought it could.
Yep.
When you had Elijah Arroyo here, he became a second-round pick. And some people would say, yeah, they still should have thrown him the ball more. but the offense wasn't the issue that year.
No.
So and with Arroyo too, it's like, look at what his numbers were before that year. It's not like and I know he had been hurt and all that, but we got to put things in context as well.
No, and Arroyo was developed.
Right. I think he's that's what I'm saying. He had injuries that held him back, but did he not become a better player in his time in Miami?
And with Mario, he was a Mario signee, but I would say he was a Mario.
When Mario came in, he knew right away he was one of the dudes he wanted to build around. And I think he made him tougher. He instilled a lot of that stuff in him that got him drafted.
The blocking. Hold on, Pete. Breaking news. Not really breaking news, actually, but breaking news for me. Check this out. Hold on. I found this. All right. We're going to pull up. Hopefully this works. Let us know if this is choppy, guys, because sometimes my stuff comes in choppy. Pete, let me know how this looks on your side.
Looks fine right now.
All right, here we go. Put it
on full screen.
Check out Judd Anderson. Here we go. Hands catch, explosive.
Ooh.
Come on, man. You telling me that can't work? 6'6", 250?
Wait, run that again.
Let's run that again. Thank you. Here we go. You telling me this can't work? Hands catch, accelerates, leaps over the guy. I'm telling you, man, he's 6'6", 250. Or he's 235, but he could be 250 in a heartbeat. Fellas, come on. I'm just saying. It's January 30th.
I like that.
He's going to have a chance to compete. I might be comparing him to Josh Allen when it's all said and done if he has a great spring at quarterback. But if it doesn't work out, get him a tight end. There we go. So, and Playing Time says, get a real tight end. There's no such thing as a real tight end. What have we learned about tight end? By the way, Arroyo, high school quarterback. He moved to tight end in the senior year. What have we heard about, or junior, I'm sorry. What have we learned about tight end in the pros? There's no such thing as this guy's the tight end. He's a tight end in high school. He goes, 5-star, and then he goes pro and tight end. That's extremely, extremely rare. Most tight ends are not real tight ends. Travis Kelce was a quarterback. Jimmy Graham was a basketball player.
David Njoku was a linebacker.
Right. And Njoku was not the most polished guy in the world. He was an athlete, really, when he came out. He played receiver, I guess. He was almost like a running back because he'd get the ball like these short little catches and run over everybody. Stowers from Vanderbilt was a tight end quarterback at Texas A&M, transferred, became a tight end, and then went back to Vanderbilt. Now is in the pros. Sadiq was just like a monster athlete from Idaho. Like, these guys do not just come out fully formed. Tight end's the position where it's body types, it's athleticism, it's a lot of different things that make these guys really good tight ends. It's not just born and you're the tight end.
Yeah.
So
I agree 100%. Excited, man. A lot of Judd Anderson talk this spring.
I love it. Judd the stud. Where's Travis, man? We haven't had Travis in a while.
Yeah, you know that Travis is not watching live if he's not commenting on it immediately. He's not going to see, but this is what is he a Judd Anderson guy, or is he just a Judd Anderson for quarterback guy?
Yeah, he wouldn't like this conversation.
He probably wouldn't like this conversation very much, but hey, if it gets this guy more involved, then maybe he will.
Shout out to everybody in the chat, 1700 on live. Like and subscribe to the show. And like I mentioned, papasaltbrew.com, 25% off. Use promo code Canes. So what else is on your mind, Petey? We got a lot of stuff going on.
Ralph has been asking about the tight end coach. He asked if I've heard who the next tight end coach will be. I have. I'm keeping it from you all.
Sorry.
No, I'm kidding. I just think that, you know what? I think it's going to be somewhere local ties. I've mentioned Pata. I think he'd be a tremendous choice. I think it's important to, if you're coming into the staff, know what you're getting into in terms of what's going to be expected, the work ethic, the grind. And he knows what it is. He's already done it. He's very well respected in this area. He's tight end coach. I've said before too. It's not always just like the players. It's not like there's a lot of times a specific coach who's specialized in that. It's offensive line coaches, receivers coaches who go over and coach the position. So I think he can do it at a high level. I think he can recruit at a high level. James Coley, that's a name that I think makes a lot of sense as well. I think obviously he's had his stints at Miami, or was it one long stint, or did he leave and come back? He was here for 5-6 years, it feels like.
Yeah, he was the offensive coordinator. Did he come back? He definitely, I think it might have been one stint. I could be wrong.
One stint.
Yeah,
he's had a couple stints now at Georgia because
he's always rumored. He's rumored every year.
He's rumored every year. I think monster recruiter. His track record speaks for itself. There, he understands the dynamics of Miami, and he's been around long enough to know what working with Mario would entail. I throw out these two names. I think they'd be great fits. Todd Hartley. He's done great things at Georgia. Obviously, has been at Miami. It's another high-profile name that has some ties here as well. It could be someone that we haven't mentioned, but I think all three of those guys make a lot of sense.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I want to get some comments from Darren Mensah that just dropped. Pete, as you get the recruiting stuff ready there, because I know I want to go through a recruiting interview we did and somebody that we're targeting. First, I want to talk about some folks that they recruit the best of the best, and that is University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute, uhealthsports.com. If you're an athlete, active person, you know how hard it is to sit on the injured list with pain or injury, maybe even try to hack your own rehab, come back early. But if you don't want to compromise your movement or performance, talk to the experts at the University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute. Whether it's elite performance, like with athletics, or just everyday movement, they will get you right, help you recover your game. Set an appointment today at uhealthsports.com. So I want to talk about these comments from Darren Mensah. This just dropped while we were recording. Did a long interview with, I guess, Pete Nakos, somebody there at On3. Yeah, it was Nakos, who's not been. Nakos has been somewhat unpopular lately with Miami fans. I guess because he's always talking about money. It is what it is. That's just his job.
Which, by the way, guys, I'll say this in Pete Nakos' defense: it's the agents who are telling him that.
Of course,
like it's not. The agents' intentions are to up their own portfolio and show people the deals they've done. He's not doing it as a thing with Miami to target Miami. That's just it's more agent driven than anything.
Yeah, and look, is he a mouthpiece for the agents? Somewhat,
for
probably,
sure.
But
I mean, that's a lot of it's
worked out for him. You know,
yeah.
I have him on notifications. He's one of the few guys I'm checking my phone during shows to see what he says. So shout out to Nakos, who he's like he's a lot older than he looks. I always thought he was like a child prodigy. Turns out he's like old. But anyways, here it is. Darren Mensah says, this all after his transfer became official. Miami's going to take me to the place I want to go, which is ultimately the NFL. They've got NFL coaches. Coach Dawson, what he does with quarterbacks, his track record is pretty amazing. It's something I want to be part of. The way Coach Coach Cristobal protects the quarterback, he's always going to have a solid O-line. We talked about this, Pete, the O-line, the NFL pathway with Ward and Beck. Now other portal quarterbacks see it. Here we see it right here. He's always going to have a solid O-line, and then the weapons just all around the team. And everyone that's a part of Miami seemed like it was a great fit for me. I want to make the NFL. I want to be a first-round draft pick. We talked about third and fourth round. That doesn't mean it's locked in stone. P, you always look to talk about Ward. It can go up. So we talked about Mensah potentially being a third, fourth-round pick this year, maybe getting drafted below where Beck would get drafted. That doesn't mean he stays there. He can't go first round next year. So he says, I want to be a first-round pick. And all signs point towards Miami. Miami's done it. If you watch what they do, they win. It's just something I want to be a part of. I've always bet on myself, and I always will. I've done it once. I'll do it again. I always want to be one of the best. So there's more comments for that. Just your take on Mensah saying all that on record now that he's transferred to Miami.
I mean, people want to get on me for the Ward stuff I've said, but that's what it was. He was nowhere near a first-round pick before he came to Miami. So again, whatever you want to attribute that to, you can say that Ward had the talent, which he did. They did not make him throw the ball better than he previously threw the football. But when you talk about the entire resume that goes into becoming a first-round pick, the proof is in the pudding with how that one turned out. And that's exactly – Mensah saying exactly what I've said the whole time. You can say what you want about Dawson as a play caller. Everyone's going to nitpick. You can say what you want about Mario. But they're going to do a couple things. They're going to give you an offense. They're going to protect the quarterback. They're going to give you a run game. They're going to give you some weapons on the outside that, by the way, the weapons that Ward had weren't next-level big-time NFL talents, as we've seen. But they were very productive players at this level, right? They got the job done for him. You gave him a tight end that was a second-round pick as well, along with, again, the offensive line that you had. So you put the pieces in place. It's now on the quarterback to go do his job, obviously, and continue elevating his game. But you're going to get the resources, and you're going to get what you need here at Miami to be able to do that. You can't point the finger and say, "Oh, I didn't have this." you're gonna have the pieces you need.
No doubt, no doubt. So now he talks more about the process itself. And he's saying it's been pretty stressful, especially for my mom. I just try to stay on social media, let my team do all the work. I think they did a phenomenal job. You saw the agents, Young Money, all those guys prominently involved in this deal. My mom was more stressed than anything, so glad it's all done, glad it worked out. They asked what would he say to Duke fans. He was pretty honest here in this answer. Oh, I've heard this guy is just a great guy, man. And you'd see it in his quotes. He's just pretty easygoing California guy, Central Coast from San Luis Obispo. Says, what do I want to say to Duke fans? I'll probably just leave that alone. To be honest, they're pretty hostile towards me. I'm obviously grateful for all the support I've received during the season. Duke's a special place. I've got nothing but good things to say about that place. Changed my life in the best way possible. Grateful. It says winning a championship, I mean the ACC championship is a special thing. Blessing to be able to do that with my teammates. I'm definitely going to miss them. That's for sure. I did see, and apparently it's real, Pete. You're a social media savant. You know this stuff better than me. You call me out of my boomer stuff when I mess it up. I'm pretty sure that was a real tweet, that there was like this group chat or group text Twitter deal of Duke fans, and that the real Darian Mensah popped in there and said Gabos and left. There was a screenshot. I
have no idea.
I heard that was real.
I have no idea to know if it's real or not. So
look into that. I heard the chat.
I saw it, but I
apparently
saw it
it's real.
I don't know.
The Duke people were saying is real.
I don't know. The Duke people said a lot of things during this process, and they were very wrong.
Well, it makes him look cool. It makes them look like losers. So
I want to believe it. I hope it's real. I don't believe anything coming out of those people's mouths.
But anyways, he talks, man, this is an in-depth article. Shout out to Nakos, man. He's talking a lot. So, Pete, let me know what you think about these comments here. We talked about the offense. Mensah says, I don't think I've ever been in an offense that's going to be as talented as this one. The opportunities are endless. The sky's the limit. I really just can't wait to work with these boys because it'd be a waste to not do something special with all the talent we have. I'm extremely confident. If you look at the pieces we have on both sides of the football, I think we've got a lot of talent. It's going to be a super exciting team to watch, but we're just trying to take it one step at a time. So he knows. I mean, Barkay was his best player. He's bringing him, and he gets all these other guys. Malachi, Tony, P, from being, these players, how they operate. Like, everybody in the country knows Malachi Tony, and players talk. And he's probably sort of players talking about other players. I got to think Malachi Tony's on top of that list.
Tony, Fletcher as well. I mean, Fletcher solidified himself as a top 5 back. These preseason national lists, we always make fun of them, D, right? And we always make predictions as they come out in the summer when Athlon Sports and everyone starts doing all position ranking and stuff, and we make fun of it, but it does matter for some stuff. And when we talk about this right here, the run that he went on there, he solidified himself as a top 3 to 5 back in the country. When you have someone like this available, it goes right. There's no research that needs to be done when you mention a Mark Fletcher, when you mention a Malachi Tony, and then again, you don't even know how this offensive line is going to play out, but the recruiting pitch is easy. It's just all Mario and Mirabal have to say is every single year we've had a good O-line. Why? I don't think it's going to change now. And they can just be very blunt about it.
Turn on the film.
Yeah, film doesn't lie there.
So here's more about the process itself. Talking to Coach Cristobal, just the fact that they really wanted me there was big for him. He said, I've told the story many times. Not a lot of teams, especially out of high school, were interested in me. This was a low-ranked recruit. I think Tulane was really the only big school that was after him. Having that feeling, especially from a coach like Coach Cristobal, is a special feeling. That's one thing Cristobal is good at, man. He'll make guys feel wanted by texting them every single second. Me and him relate in a lot of ways off the field. The biggest thing is our faith in God. You see him talk about it all the time. When he's getting interviewed, he gives all the glory to him. That's something that I admire and I aspire to be like one day. So, again, Cristobal doing a great job building the relationship, getting that connection. So the conversations with Dawson, this is interesting to me, Pete, because this is, they're going to sell him. This is what they're selling him on. This is what they're telling him. So he's telling everybody else. With him and Dawson, Mensah says, quote, we talked about watching Cam that year and how explosive he was and the control he had in the offense. Cam had a lot of freedom to change things, giving him the ability to check the play at the line of scrimmage. And then watching Beck this year, he was more of a control the run game, going back to his time at Georgia, different style. We're going to mix the two because I've been in both styles of offense. At Tulane with John Summerall, we talked about
which is what I said with Lance, just looking at the box scores. Like they weren't putting in his hand to mess the game up, right? He had to play a more controlled style of play. And then this year it was bombs away.
And second in the country in passing this year in the bombs away style, playing in basically the Rhett Lashley offense. Jonathan Brewer, Rhett Lashley disciple, they were together in Miami. So playing that style here. And then at Tulane with the Summerall, that was very much he was the most one of the most, Ward was the most efficient quarterback in the country that year, but Mensah was top 4 in efficiency, because when they did throw off that play action, he was bombing it down the field, kind of that old North Turner, run, play action. But its play action is going deep, so he had a high yards per attempt at Tulane. The yards per attempt went down at Duke, but the volume went up. So he can play both styles, and he talks about it here. And then finally,
North Turner, man.
That's that?
That's what everyone would hire when they were trying to turn things around.
Always
back in the 2000s, man.
So then wrapping it up, he says, Miami was a spot for me to take myself to that next level. Coach Dawson, what he does at the quarterback position, I definitely wanted to be part of that. Miami's a great spot. Obviously, they made it to the national championship game. Why not go ahead and do it again the next year? So that's Damian Mensah. I thought that was real interesting, Pete. And, shout out to On 3 and Nakos for getting that interview done. I'll be talking to Nakos, or to Mensah pretty soon. I'm sure we'll do something with Canes Connection, with Storm Sessions, maybe with CanesInSight. We'll get that one going when he gets down here. But what's your takeaway hearing more from Mensah about the process, the decision, and the pitch?
I mean, he must have been listening to the CanesInSight podcast while we were talking about the pursuit of him, because it's logical stuff, D. This is not – I don't think any of that should be a surprise. It's very, very logical answers, and it's why Miami's always going to be in a position to land a top transfer for a quarterback, and why I don't know that they're going to go away from this method anytime soon.
And you were an agent, so agents are telling him the same thing. That, like, some of the stuff he's saying, like, he's seeing it for himself. This guy's a smart guy. It's not like he's out there just like, hey, put me wherever. But I'm sure the agents are seeing it from the same
Duke has had a first-round pick. I know it wasn't under this coaching staff, but Duke has had a Daniel Jones at the position. So it's not like it can't happen, right? I'm not going to be unrealistic. First-round QBs come from everywhere. But in today's day and age of the transfer portal, where there's much more movement, I don't know that we're going to see these guys coming from the random schools anymore, because when that buzz is building on them in the offseason, they're going to just transfer up. Those guys aren't going to stay at North Dakota State anymore. So in that aspect of it, yes, the agents are, and this is what I always try to tell people, like, the agents obviously want to make money on the NIL side. That's not a secret here. But the real money for the agents is getting these guys to the next level. Not everyone can do it, right? So there's a distinction. But Mensah in particular, that's a client that you have to, in what you think your mind is, help your client get in the best position to up his status for the next year. So that's why a Miami, it's a safe sell too, because when you're the agent, you may think something is a good idea, but you know that, hey, if this goes wrong and I'm suggesting it, it's on me, right? And things can really backfire. It's a safe sell to your client. Miami is a safe sell. You get the NIL package where it needs to be. You have the development going on here. You're winning. I don't know where, and it goes back to the recruiting thing that we talked about. Like, what's the hole in the argument against Miami right now? But again, if you're an agent and you're looking at these options out there, let's not forget you're in the city of Miami also.
Yep.
Which I think if you are character, not saying like, hey, this is a bad kid, but if you have we talk about football character, if you can stand in Miami, so Miami is much more similar to the cities you're going to be at the next level, compared to Gainesville, or Tallahassee. You're getting scrutiny from the fan base, but you aren't getting that national spotlight on you. Miami will be in the discussions on First Take, next year, from ACC media days, from these media days on. And
you play in the same stadium as the Dolphins,
so it's a different animal in that aspect. And I think that part of it too. Again, if the kid can handle it, then why not be in this city?
A great point, Pete. We're going to finish with some recruiting stuff here as we wrap up, but wanted to talk about my friends at KashKick, KashKick, trying to kill some time before the next CanesInSight podcast, which coming this afternoon. Pete's got something up his sleeve here. But killing time till the next podcast, killing time till the next batch of Senior Bowl highlights drops, whatever the sickos do. Go on KashKick, KanesInSight in the App Store. 1.5 million plus downloads, 4.5 plus average rating in the App Store. One of the biggest apps in the country. Playing games, surveys, browsing, all consolidated in the app. You make extra money on the side, go straight to your PayPal. Give your free time a raise. KanesHkick in the App Store. All right, Petey, bring us home.
Yeah, offer I wanted to talk about. A lot of these visits going around right now. But Jordan Agbanoma, offensive lineman from Grayson, big program, obviously in Georgia, 4-star recruit, top 100 national player here, 77th nationally. I mean, he's got Auburn, Florida, Florida State, Georgia, all those schools in that area on him already. But Miami visited him yesterday, offered him. Coach Mirabal offered him. And he's one that I'm keeping an eye on. I was just going back and forth on him with him on DM yesterday. Going to be having him on the show probably next week, D.
Love it.
But he seems very, very interested in Miami. And this is, you see the tweet. What were we just talking about? The name recognition, the guys that they are looking up to. You haven't had that. You had these guys. These kids don't. Our guy, Brian McKinney is our guy, right? But they don't know who Brian McKinney is.
No.
They know who Francis Mauanoa is. Hopefully Markel Bell now has goes on and gets drafted here. But Francis is the guy in the O-line world right now for these offensive linemen to look up to. Right? So this stuff all makes a difference. I'm gonna bring up his film here real quick. Again, this is his junior year stuff, and he's 6'3", 295, interior offensive lineman, but no power, man.
And power and suddenness. I mean, very honestly, when I was watching him this morning, I mean, he reminded me a little bit of Francis, just in terms of how sudden he is while also having that power and that thick frame, not being fat. You talk about just Francis and how he makes an impact. I mean, they're going to watch the first round of the draft, so you can't miss it. You see it. You see the colors. But Grayson, yeah, he honestly, that's who he reminds me of the most is Francis. Grayson is a very, very good program.
Shorter than Francis, but the
Right.
play style I see. Look at that. Oh, God.
Yeah, he's playing defense there. So he's from –
No, was he on defense there?
I thought he was.
No, man. I think he drove this guy maybe I'm wrong. I could have sworn that
maybe you're right. Maybe he's that guy. Send the guy halfway off the screen.
It's –
But anyways, this guy is a big-time prospect. Grayson's where you got Ja'Kai Clark a few years ago. Jake Garcia finished his career at Grayson. So you've gotten guys from Grayson's an Atlanta area school.
Yeah, here it is. He's look at him drive this guy 20 yards downfield. Goodness.
Yeah, you're right. Poof, off the screen.
This is why I wanted to talk about this guy, D. Out of these early offers and who they're visiting right now, it's important. But when I saw this guy, I was like, no, this would fit right in here.
And look, Georgia kid, but again, Grayson more on the city side. Right, you're talking more on the Atlanta side. I think Miami would love to get more into Atlanta. You got some players from Atlanta last year. You got Jontavius Wyman at corner. You got Cortez Redding, his teammate, at safety. 2 guys from the Atlanta area. You recruit a bunch of guys in the Atlanta area. I think you can recruit the Southeast without worrying about the SEC, especially with Miami kind of surpassing the SEC, as we saw in the college football playoff. But you're always going to do better in that world when you focus on the cities. I'm not saying just right off some of the more rural parts, but in my view, the city's always going to treat you better from a recruiting standpoint than anywhere else in Georgia.
Look at that Grayson O-line, man.
Yeah, these guys are beasts. Like I said, we got Ja'Kai Clark from there. Remember, he was a starter for us. It wasn't like it wasn't like a Mario kind of caliber offensive lineman.
This
but
kid's nasty. Did you see
big lower,
that?
big lower body too.
You see that rep right there?
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness. I mean, the feet. I mean,
yeah, he's big down low. I mean, no diddy, to quote our boy Leonard Taylor.
I love how when he's up against some of these guys, he's saying like 4-star UNC commit, 4-star Oregon commit.
They're playing real
high-level competition, right? They play a national schedule too, so
he gets off the ball fast, man, and physical.
I mean, he's a guard at the next level, right?
He probably, but I mean,
I think his height is gonna keep him.
And how long is he? That's the other thing. But man, he moves. He's very sudden with his feet. That's why the run blocking reminds me of Mauanoa, because Mauanoa is really, really sudden with his footwork. He's gets that second level. This guy shows me some of that stuff. This is definitely a Mario Mirabal type of offensive lineman. And if you're recruiting offensive linemen, it's kind of like the transfer quarterback pitch. Hey, listen, Mauanoa is here. He started day 1. He's gone. you're going to see him on shaking hands with Goodell. Is that how you view yourself? Hopefully, as Cooper and Brockermeyer get drafted, so you can have 3 guys, or you have 4 guys potentially drafted. That'd be a hell of a sell. If you can get 4 guys drafted in the draft next year, with now we know Bell will get picked somewhere. Cooper and Brockermeyer, I think, being the kind of fringe guys, depending on what team picks when. That would be awesome. You get 4 guys drafted with McCoy then and Sampson maybe next year.
He was already on the Under Armour All-American roster, Polynesian Bowl, so he's a legit top 100 guy for next year. D.
I just need you to pronounce his name. This is a go-to name for you to pronounce.
Jordan Agbanoma.
This is you're the king of this. You're the king of the silent G. But yeah, man, I like that prospect. I'm a big fan of what he shows, and these guys know what they're doing. I'm not a big, we've gotten in trouble over the years of saying just trust the evals blindly. And look, some of these guys have not panned out. When you talk about, Frank Avili goes to Buffalo. Kinsler doesn't pan out. He goes to Ole Miss. Derek Plaz goes to Auburn. Guys that could end up being good players, but at least it didn't pan out initially. So it's not like these guys are batting 1,000.
Right.
But when you talk about these top 100 players, they tend to target the right ones. Like these blue chippers that they go after, a lot of ones that they don't get end up being the stars of the world. And I think this is a guy, when you see a top 100 player that's targeted this early by Mirabal and Cristobal, I think this guy could be a hell of a player. Excited about this one. So we'll see where this one goes. But
no doubt, it's about to be that time, man. We'll be really recruiting heavy now in the next few weeks. As February is going to be all recruiting visits. There's not going to be any. We'll get some freshman updates. I'm sure they're working out, but that's what this is going to be. And draft stuff too. The combine will be now in a couple weeks. I'll get a lot of info from that. So.
Still unwrapping the portal. We're going to go over all the portal movements to get you guys caught up because it's hard to keep track of who's where, including Miami, really. So we'll get all that done. But I want to talk about a receiver, Pete, another city guy, which is Dakota Garant.
Yeah.
So I actually talked to this guy when he visited. He visited for the Notre Dame game. Then he was here for college game day. That was Notre Dame, right? Notre Dame was the one with college game day, I believe. Yep. Yeah. So he's from Detroit, Michigan, 6'1", 195, top 10 receiver in the country, number 7 nationally on 247, number 8 on the composite. So he's in that top 10 range, top 50 overall type player. The schools you'd expect are after him, Alabama, all that stuff. Junior Olympic guy in 2023, so he is super fast and talented. Plays defense.
I heard there was a 7-on-7 event recently, like last weekend, right? D?
Yep.
I heard that someone who was out there filming told me that he was the best player out there.
Yeah, he's someone Miami's liked a lot. Like I mentioned, he visited for the Notre Dame game. He is someone that we've had on our radar. He's visited Tennessee. He's visited Penn State. He's visited Texas A&M. He's a Michigan kid, Detroit kid. So he's been around. But, yeah, man, I think Nick Lanier is a name you hear a lot about, a receiver, 5-star locally, now at Miami Carroll City. Obviously, he's going to be a factor. But you pair him with a guy like Garant that has that track speed and also being a big physical receiver, 1,600 all-purpose yards, 23 TDs, plays both ways. So, yeah, I'm a fan.
You want to play this interview here?
Yeah, so take a look at the interview here. This is an older interview. I talked to him when he came down from Notre Dame just to get a feel for this player. Again, Miami just visited him. That's why we're talking about him. He's on the radar firmly. He's been on the radar for a while. This is an interview I did with him back when he visited for the Notre Dame game. I'm here with Dakota Garant, one of the top players in the country, 2027. Dakota, man, how was your visit to Miami?
I feel like my visit was great. First time seeing a game day visit and just being around the atmosphere was just electrifying, and especially those guys coming out with the dub against their rivals. That was great seeing.
Yeah, college game day in the morning, and then you had the stadium packed. I mean, just the whole atmosphere. What were you seeing there?
The fans were lit. They're telling me, come to Miami, feel my girl's better than Florida. Just a whole lot of, I feel like love here. A couple people, fans knowing my name and stuff like that. So it was just electric.
You see Malachi Tony, number 10, true freshman, playing a lot out there. You see a lot of freshmen getting some time. Is that something that goes into your decision?
Yeah, that's definitely something that comes into my decision. They play freshmen, and they dominate the receiver position, so that's stuff that I pay attention to and look at. So they play the freshman, Coach KB, he gonna put the guys in the position to be great. So I feel like it may be a great fit.
And just the whole city atmosphere. You're coming from a city, from Detroit, right? So what's it like being in a city as opposed to like a college town?
Feel me? I feel like it's just nice here. I like everything about it, but I don't know.
Yeah, you're still figuring it out.
Yeah.
In terms of this, your senior year or your junior year, I'm sorry. How's the season going? How you feeling out there?
Season going good right now. We 4-0. We didn't beat some heavy teams that we wasn't supposed to beat. So I feel like it's going great for us, and we're gonna probably win the state championship this year.
There you go. And your process is still early, so you're just kind of getting started with that. What are some of the teams in your mix, and like just how do you see the process playing out, just in terms of what you're going to be doing?
I probably end up committing around June, but I'm gonna take my OBs and how that goes. But right now, I'm just taking my visits to the schools that I'm most interested in, trying to get the full spiel, like how the game day gonna be. I'll eventually make my decision around June.
And some names on the list again. I know it's early, but just some names that you're going to visit and take a look at.
I'll be at, of course, Miami, Texas A&M, Penn State, Ohio State, like Oregon.
And coaching staff, you're around a lot of guys here this week, and obviously they had a job to do, but I know they were recruiting heavy. So just tell me about the interactions with the coaching staff.
For me, it's nothing but love and great energy from the coaches here. For me, Coach KB, he just, he real, keeps it real. He a little bit funny, and then talking to Coach Cristobal, he's very experienced. He's on that Nick Saban coach staff, so I feel like he just takes stuff from that and just builds on to be one of the greatest head coaches.
Last thing, just your playing style for those who haven't seen you or getting to know you here.
For me, I feel like I do a little bit of everything. Sometimes I go out in the slide. On the outside, I can go top, route smooth, efficient hands, don't drop nothing. I can go on top of a guy, get speed by a guy. Then, I can play on the defensive side like Travis Hunter. So I play a little bit of that, catch interceptions, hit sticks, a little bit of everything for me.
Dakota Goran, remember the name. Appreciate you. There you go. They sounded like he was interested, man. And those are the same schools you still hear about: Penn State, Texas A&M. So it's wide open. He's not like, hey, this kid's going to Michigan because he's from Detroit or something like that, or Ohio State. I didn't hear Ohio State, which is nice to hear for a Midwest receiver that's ranked that high. But you said it. You had a source that said that he played really well in that tournament. I think I heard that also.
I heard he was the best player there.
Yeah, I think 247 might have said it. That was a poorly timed tournament. It was right before the championship. We couldn't go. I was kind of bummed about that. I would love to see those guys, but we'll get a chance to see him on the 7-on-7 circuit. But, man, talented dude. Miami's trying to recruit that high level of wide receiver. We got Malachi Toney. The era of having good college receivers that don't go pro, I think Miami's trying to end that. And it's good to have good receivers. It's good. It's better to have these NFL stud Ohio State type receivers, LSU type receivers, and watching this guy's film, knowing the track background he has, and I talked to him in person, so I know his size. He is a talented dude, man, with the suddenness and with his size.
Yeah, here he is returning kicks.
Catches it with his hands.
What kind of competition are we talking about here?
I mean, Detroit plays pretty good football, so I think it's pretty good. But he's a track runner, so the speed is legit. And then at that battle, the opening Miami thing he did down here, that was
seems like that's how guys Oregon gets.
Yeah, they're in the mix. Look how sudden he is in his routes. Like, this guy's got some juice. I mean,
and he's not tiny.
He's not. I talked to him. He was comparing. He's probably like some more in Wingo size, maybe a little bigger than Wingo. But the thing that jumps out watching him is just that first step burst, like planting his foot, boom. He has that extra little juice to him that you see sometimes with these track and field athletes, that they just, these are the guys that come out the blocks. And then I also love this, where defensive side of the ball, he's making plays.
He read that the whole way.
Receivers that can make plays on defense. Zay Flowers is kind of a classic example. I thought he would have been I thought he was going to be like a Keontae Scott. But these receivers that can make plays on defense, they're always physical. They're always tough. They always have great instincts. They work hard. They love football, typically. Like, those are guys you like to see. And I think you see him talking a little bit. This is a high priority for Miami, man. Miami, one thing, the way they there he goes and gets it. The way Miami recruits is they don't cast the widest net. They say, who are the studs? And we're just going to recruit these guys every single day relentlessly.
Looks like they're playing against Pittsburgh or FIU here. I don't know what that midfield logo is.
The Golden Panthers. They're not doing too hot. These Golden Panthers just got smoked on that one.
Love this player, though, man. I mean, they went after – you look at who they went after last year. They went after Jace Matthews early. They went after Tristan Keys, or I always want to say Trenton Breeze. Tristan Keys early.
He's a little short for them.
Yeah.
But a very good multi-sport kid.
Yeah, cerebral sometimes. But – I mean, they took their swings on some of these big name guys. Obviously, Calvin Russell we can debate how much they went after him. I think they really did want him, and then things cooled off there at the end.
Yeah.
But
and who knows what happens?
Right. Who knows what happens? And you understand Nick Lanier is going to be in that mix this year as well, wide receiver. So you go get a national guy to pair with Lanier. You got to close that one up. Not done yet, but
oof, this guy's releases are nice, man. Yeah, Lanier's a stud too. Lanier, another one that plays defense. Yeah,
now
this
we'll
kid Lanier
hopefully
would
now
be
get the
great.
Malachi Tony effect that his next couple
Yes,
years.
I asked them about, if you're the interview, I asked them about Malachi Tony. This was after the Notre Dame game. So that was before like the whole season of him balling. But I knew, I watched him all camp. I kind of knew that was just the beginning there. But he said, he goes, yeah, that was big for him. Coach KB getting a lot of love. So I'm a fan of this dude. Here's playing
defense
corner
again, yeah.
And he came off his guy to get that one. So he read that one.
I like the build though, man. I like the build for sure.
And nice kid too. You heard the interview. He is a friendly player.
D, it's funny, man. Before we came in here, you called me and you're like, man, what are we going to talk about today? Here we are, 2-hour show, man. The off season never sleeps.
I love it. And by the way, let us know what you guys want more of, right? Because me and Peter are in the lab. We're in the war room trying to figure out our plan of attack for 2026. I mean, our year-over-year growth is ridiculous thanks to all of you guys. So we want to kind of know, what do you guys want more of? What do you want less of? What do you want to see from us? I think with this type of show, you might be seeing more of here in this time of the year, where we're covering recruiting, we're covering just guys that are in the portal, kind of stuff that's already happened, stuff that might happen, NFL draft stuff, all over the place, man. X's and O's with Lance and guys like that. Just trying to really give you the
here. You got
variety.
something here. I don't know what you want to say to this, D.
Oh, stay tuned, Canes Cat. You want a weekly JD Arteaga show? Stay tuned. Season starts in a couple weeks. Might have something brewing for you there with Coach Arteaga. I'll announce everything when it's all ready to announce and locked and loaded. But
nothing better than Duffy's in baseball season, man. Duffy's
in
basketball season is not bad either. Duffy's in football season is not bad either. But baseball and Duffy's goes hand in hand.
Seen a lot of Canes baseball Hall of Famers in these walls. Yeah, for sure. But anyways, appreciate you guys. Like and subscribe to the show. 2,000 on. What's better than Canes football in late January? Coming off a playoff run. Only one thing's better, and that's celebrate the championship. We're building towards it. Like and subscribe to the show. Go to the Miami Hurricane team store. As always, promo code INSIGHT20 will get you 20% off.
Wow, you talk about dignitaries walking in here. Let me tell you something, man.
Oh, man. Look at that. Spike himself. We got Spike. We got Mark. We got so many UM legends here walking through the home of the Hurricanes. Get on here. The home of the Hurricanes. Duffy's Tavern. What's going on?
Hey.
CIS member right here.
By the way, do I get paid for this appearance?
I think you have to pay us. You have to pay us for this appearance. So the checks, the invoices in the mail.
Yeah.
Like and subscribe to the show.
Exactly.
Go to Miami Hurricane team store. Promo code INSIGHT20, 20% off. Go Canes.
Go Canes.
Okay.